It's the type of stuff that I'm certainly thinking when I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about a past person that betrayed me. That is exactly the type of stuff that I'm thinking.
Some of these letters are, over 20, some 30 years old. They're written to a different person. I'm trying to answer them as me now. It's written to a kind of a stranger, from a stranger.
Did you ever have any letter where it filled you with joy? And hello, everyone. This is another interview with my past guest, Dmitry Samarov, who is an artist and author. I think this guy is great. He's so honest, and the last time I had him on, it was a great conversation, and he came through again. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with artist and author Dmitry Samarov. Hey everyone, we are here with Dmitry Samarov, who is a past Eager to Know guest. And I was visiting Chicago and I asked him to come and hang out with me so I could find out what he's up to. And it sounds like he's up to a lot. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. A little sweaty from a bike ride, but other than that, not bad. Happy to be here.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
It's a very fancy, spanking new dwelling.
Yes, so we are recording this in my friend Jerry's condo, which is fancy schmancy. It's brand new construction. He got an interior designer, so Jerry is moving on up. So it's very luxurious staying here, and it's been a great place to. I had to bring all this equipment that you see. Like I had to bring all this because. But I now have a portable podcast set up. It's actually not that big of a deal. So transporting all this. I recently re-listened to our original podcast that you and I had done 5 or 6 years ago. And I thought it was fantastic. I thought that there was a sense of honesty in it that I really appreciated. And I immediately sent you a note, and I'm like, Dmitry, I hadn't talked to you.
As opposed to all the other liars that you've had on here.
Well, I would say that, I feel like sometimes people are trying to present an idea. They're maybe selling something, selling a service, selling a lifestyle, or try to inspire people.
I don't want to inspire anybody.
Okay, well, I would say that that inspiring talk is a certain type of content that actually is valuable in the world. But there was something about what you had to say and what you said that I really appreciated. I sent you an email. I said, would you want to talk? And you're like, yeah. And I also have written 3 more books since we talked. So I recently read your book, To Whom It May Concern, which I thought was fantastic. Can you describe what that book is?
Okay, so what it is a series of new answers to old letters. And it started as, so I went, it was very much a pandemic kind of era-related exercise where confined to, the inside of my home, I just started looking through all the old stuff, and at that point, it saved every letter that anybody had ever sent me.
So these are letters that are responses to actual real letters.
Yes, but I just wrote one answer just as like an extra, just to see what it would be like.
Yeah. But
the whole thing, as it developed, was to answer them as if I'd just gotten them, today.
Yeah.
Like not really putting him. They're out of context. All names have been removed. But a lot of them, obviously, with exes and old friends or former friends. Right. When people have died, several are to people who died.
Right. So I noticed there's a lot of hurt in it. I related to that. I think everyone has a sense of hurt inside them. I certainly do. And I definitely resonated with that. It was kind of on a dark side, a lot of it. I'm curious how none of them, did you ever have any letter where it filled you with joy? And not that would have been that interesting, but I'm just curious.
Well, I think, joy is a lot more difficult to write, like in an interesting way.
Okay.
And then I think maybe the joyful part, or I didn't read through every single letter I've ever gotten, but it was a way of, it was a kind of purging ritual because, afterwards, so the artwork in the book is made up of the actual letters I'm responding to. I make collages out of them.
Yeah.
And then I got burned the rest of them, which I'd never done before, but it was time to get rid of it and it became literal baggage,
Do you feel, so first of all, the stuff that you were writing in these letters, it's the type of stuff that I'm certainly thinking, like when I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about a past person that I feel betrayed me or all that stuff. That is exactly the type of stuff that I'm thinking that was in that letter. Would you feel that was, I don't want to use the word healing, but do you feel that transformed your relationship with all of those feelings and thoughts in your head in any way?
I think it made some sense of him to put him in some sort of perspective.
Yeah.
But also because some of these letters are, over 20, some 30 years old.
Yeah.
So they're written to a different person than I am, but I'm trying to answer them as me now.
Yeah.
So it's written to a kind of a stranger from a stranger.
Yeah.
And the hope was that my answers or in the whole presentation together would get, like you were saying, it made you think of the thoughts that you have.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to really be about me. It's kind of supposed to be about you reading it, and seeing stuff that you recognize.
Yeah. So, and that was one of the letters. I think you had a letter to the reader or something. There was something that spoke to that. Maybe it wasn't a letter to the reader, but it was about what this was about. And it was that it was about, you mentioned that at some point near the end, that it is about you. And I really felt, it was extremely powerful. And I was thinking, I want to recommend this to people. But then I was also thinking, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know who would. There's some people that would read this, some of my friends, that I feel like they need this type of content, but I don't know if they would be interested in it. But I feel like it's valuable.
Not the sunshiniest book you'll ever see.
But that's the type of stuff that I like.
Yeah. But like the darkness, I mean, I definitely have a lot of that in me, I guess.
Yeah.
And but making the art or making the writing is a way of getting it out and making it into a productive thing, a thing that'll communicate with somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, their letters, the pretext is that as if I'm answering these people, but I'm not really answering them. I'm writing them to you, kind of in a way, in an indirect way.
Right.
The you that's the reader. I mean,
Now, one of the other projects that you're working on is illustrating books that have come into the public domain, and I wasn't fully aware of this concept of real, I guess, sort of public domain, but basically there are books that are like Moby Dick. You can republish this book, and you have, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you are republishing Moby Dick with your illustrations added to it.
Correct. Yeah. This has been, it's been going on for a while, but especially with the internet, anybody for a book that's in public domain can publish it as their own, because it doesn't belong to, quote unquote, doesn't belong to anybody anymore. They can sue you, or whatever for stealing their material.
Right.
And what's happened is, like, you can go on Amazon now and see like 7,000 different quote unquote publishing houses that have published a version of Moby Dick, for instance. This is one of the most popular books. So, and I read an article. This all started last November. So there's this horrible thing that happened at the beginning of November, and I needed a hole to kind of disappear into. And the hole that I found was through this article, like, about these tech bros bragging about the millions they're making republishing classics.
Okay.
And I guess they made YouTube videos like, it's so easy. We just slap this PDF together and like send it to a printer and put it on Amazon, and like, we're just swimming in money.
Okay.
And they were gross, and the whole thing was terrible, but it planted a seed, and there was a link to this thing called Project Gutenberg, which lists all the books like in America that are free in public domain and in audiobooks. And I kind of started looking around the site, and on top of almost any of the curated lists is Moby Dick.
Nice. Now, I have never read Moby Dick before, surprisingly, because I read a lot of the classics being in like honors English in high school and everything. And I really wasn't that familiar with it. I don't think it was something that was in my high school. You have, and you did an interview recently that I heard where you were talking about this. It was a podcast, so I was aware that you have a relationship with this book and you like Moby Dick.
Which podcast do you remember? Like,
I don't know. It showed up on I was in my car and I have CarPlay, and I think Spotify must have seen your name because I posted your episode, and it just showed up, and it was you and Mallory talking about.
Oh, that's the recording of the book release.
Yeah, it was the recording of the book release. So it showed up on my feed. So I did hear half of that. So I did hear you talking about it. The way you described it was really interesting, that it was the narrative is very short and very simple, but it sounds like it's a lot of like background on whaling and things like that.
There's these endless digressions about like the history of harpoons. Like he'll go on for 20, 30, 40 pages about every kind of whale there is. It's sort of... It's very digressive, goes on all these tangents about many different subjects, about seafaring, but like the actual voyage. So it's a guy that goes on a whaling ship, with a captain who's obsessed with a whale that had maimed him, that lost him a leg, and he's obsessed with revenge.
Yep.
But that's just that's just kind of like the plot, but that's just because a book has to have a beginning, middle, and end.
Right,
the really interesting stuff is just these digressions and the idea of obsession and failure.
Interesting. Yeah, you mentioned a lot
of failure.
A lot about failure.
And male fragility.
So I'm really glad that I was aware, because I'm going to start reading it. I have read like a couple chapters, but I'm really glad that you made me aware of those digressions, because now that I know that, I will be expecting them, because I think that would have thrown me and maybe confused me. So I'm glad that I'm aware of that. And I also like the fact that it's the concept of having a book about failure. That's really interesting.
Well, I guess that's what I take it as. But
Okay.
I don't know if it's the only. There's a million books, kind of trying to analyze Moby Dick.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of people consider it like the greatest American novel ever written.
Really? So, what do you think?
I'm not a list maker. I think it's a great book, but like I don't think art's not sports. I don't need to compare them.
That's
know
fair.
What I mean?
Yeah. Why is it you think it's a great book, though?
Why is it a great book? Wow. Just the way that he kind of marries like the external, action with like these kind of flights in these diversions, it creates just like like a whole world, which is mostly internal. That's why. So there's several really bad movies and miniseries that have attempted to dramatize, Moby Dick, and it never works.
Right.
Because it's not what in a movie all you can show is action, really.
Right.
Like external events, and there's really very little that's that interesting in this book that happens like as an action.
Okay. Now, I know that I believe you first read the book when you had gone through a particular personal challenge.
Through a divorce.
Okay. And you kind of immersed yourself in the book. I'm curious, is reading something, like if you're going through a difficult period where there's a lot going on emotionally in your mind, is reading an escape for you?
I don't know if it's an escape. I mean, reading for me is just a daily. It's a part. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not reading something. Usually a book, but also stuff on the computer. But yeah, it's the way I've always lived. I grew up in a family where reading was kind of like basically the religion. House full of books.
Nice.
So I don't know if I'd say it's an escape, but it is oftentimes a way to make sense of things that don't make sense.
Okay.
In my own life, and in the case of Moby Dick, it was the thing that kind of going out to sea, with this crazy whaling ship in the 19th century got me away from the horrible things in the news.
Okay, so
Yeah.
when you're reading something like that, you
Yeah.
are immersed and carried away.
Well, especially when I decided, I mean, the reason, the pretext for rereading it was that I was going to put out my own version.
Right.
And I very quickly started doing drawings.
Yeah.
And it actually came together in like maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
I just worked on it every day.
Has so you reread it with the intention of creating illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
How did that change your relationship with the book?
Well, I mean, I think probably during that process, I probably reread it 4 or 5 times in all, And then
Really?
I downloaded it onto my music player and would ride my bike and listen to audiobook versions. Yeah, I was just in it all the time.
That's awesome.
And I think I've heard of this. I didn't go to any like writing school, but I know one exercise that is recommended is to like retype a favorite story, to type it all out yourself, to really feel like the rhythm of the sentences.
Interesting. It's kind of like copying a great work of art.
Exactly.
They tell painters to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The same way. But like if you were to type, even on a computer, but even better, like on a typewriter or in your notebook, to write out all the sentences of a piece of writing that you like, it would get you inside of that work a lot more intimately. It's kind of like working on a car and taking it apart and putting it back together,
Yeah.
You see all the parts.
Yeah, I can see that. So I recently did so people are always telling artists to copy great works of art, which I've never done. But one time about 6 months ago, I was in my studio feeling completely uninspired, but I knew I should be painting. So I opened up, I have this, one of those coffee table books from MoMA, and I found this, I wish I could remember the name of the painting, but it was an abstract painting of like a bottle, and you could barely tell what it was. And I'm like, let me just copy this. And as I started copying it, I realized, oh, this guy, I see what he did here. I see what he's doing here. I basically got to understand the artwork and understand what the artist was doing by copying it. It's kind of the same way with piano. Do you play piano? So the same thing happens with piano. When you're listening to a piece, you're like, okay, whatever. But then when you start learning it, you're like, oh, this guy, Mozart, he was clever in this measure. I see exactly what he was doing. So I'm looking to personally improve my writing skills. So I'm going to do exactly what you just suggested.
Try that. Even like pick like, I don't know, a poem you like, and just write it.
Yeah.
Write all the words in a notebook or in a Word document, and it'll make you understand the components or like how it is. And that's what's been happening with these books that I've taken on, and starting with Moby Dick.
So Moby Dick was the first one, and I believe it's getting ready to come out, or when is
It's
it?
out.
When did it come out?
It came out at the beginning of May, and the book release was the thing you heard was on the 10th.
Oh, so wait, I thought, okay, when I ordered all my books from you, I thought I had ordered the latest thing, but maybe I didn't.
We didn't go over these. I didn't want you to go broke spending all your money on all my books, but so I just told you about the ones that came before this stuff.
Oh, okay, all right. So let's talk about this new creative work stream that you have, which is adding illustrations to these books, Moby Dick being the first one, and there are additional ones that are happening.
Yeah, so what quickly happened first off with Moby Dick is that like a few weeks into my starting to work with it, I started texting Mallory, who's my friend, about it, and she got excited about it. And I haven't had a publisher who wasn't me in years, but she was excited about it, and then like another week later I had a contract with her, and she decided to put it out. Maudlin House is her publishing imprint, and but then I finished it. I finished all my work basically by January of this year, and I really enjoyed that process. So I started making a list of other books from Project Gutenberg that I could work on.
Okay.
So the next one I took on while I was waiting for Moby Dick to come out was Babbitt by Sinclair Lewis.
Okay, I have that. So that was one that I have.
Oh, did you get?
Yeah,
you got Babbitt?
I do have Babbitt.
Did you get the Marvel Universe?
Yes.
Oh, you did.
So I believe I have Marvel Universe, Babbitt. I have this one right here.
The art
book,
survey.
which is
so
awesome. And then the one that I mentioned. Your artwork is just
okay. So you do have all. I think maybe when
I just don't have Moby Dick.
I think it's because it wasn't officially out, or her copies hadn't come in yet.
Okay.
But now you can order it either from me or from. It's available everywhere, like anywhere in the world.
All right, cool.
I forgot that I'd sent you Marvel Universe and Babbitt, but those were the second and third. But so the Marvel Universe, which is written by a contemporary writer, Bruce Wagner, somebody sent him a picture of it, and then I sent him a copy, and he got really excited, and he connected me with his current publisher, which is Arcade Publishing, and they're going to re-release it with a new cover because he wanted a new cover. And that's what I've been working on just like the last couple of weeks.
So this seems like a big deal.
New York publisher, it is a big deal.
That's incredible. That's really...
Along with that, they're putting out... These are going to come out in October, I think. The new version of Marvel Universe, and also a Scottish book called The Suicide's Grave, being the private diary and confessions of a justified sinner. It's a really long title, and it's hard to remember, but it's a book from 1824, and it's like a Gothic horror novel, sort of a precursor and inspiration, I guess, for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And it's about this guy who believes that he has like the rights from God to go basically on a killing spree.
Okay.
It's a pretty crazy book.
Okay.
And that's in what Arcade's going to put that out.
Wonderful. Now, how many books do you have total at this point?
Well, these are not books I've written. These
no, but even still, because I know you have the old style, like all the other ones that I read.
Yeah, like 8 or 10 or something.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I'm starting to lose count. Yeah. So the other thing was this art survey book that I put out. When did that come out? Last year.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I am so happy for any success that you have. I really am.
Thank you.
You know, when I first saw as I mentioned in the previous podcast, I was working at a gallery here when I lived here, and somebody shared with me your books, and as soon as I read them, there was just your sensibility, your art style, and your writing style. I connected with it immediately. So I'm so glad that you came on the podcast previously. Now, speaking of podcasts, you were part of a podcast called, was it That Horror Cast?
That Horror Cast, yeah.
So I was your biggest fan. So it was a podcast where you and your friend Mallory, who you just mentioned, who has the publishing company, you would be talking about some horror movie. But it was basically the two of you just talking. And I loved listening to it because a lot of times being in Vermont, I was really lonely. So I just want to let you know that I would be so excited when I saw a new episode, because listening to you two just shoot the shit, it made me feel like I was your friends, like I was part of your group. And it was really awesome. And I know that's probably, knowing what I know about your personality, I know that's probably not what you would think. But
wait, back up. What do you know about my personality?
Well, just like from reading your books and what I know about you, and there was something about that. I just was really enjoyed it. And, because I have this podcast, and I would always think, I wish I could be like that on Eager to Know, because I just don't, that's not my personality. I'm too I'm always trying to analyze everything and unpack, and just the way my brain works, because I'm so curious. Whereas you guys are just like, let's just talk and just see what happens. And I can be like that in the real world, but on the podcast, I'm not. And I always think, I wish I could be more like Dmitry and Mallory.
Well, yeah, I enjoy those kind of long digressive conversations. Maybe that's like the Moby Dick thing. That book is kind of like that. It just will not stay on task. You know? If you're just looking for like a beat, like point A to point B to point C, that's not the way that book works.
Well, that's why I said that I'm glad I know that, because that would really have thrown me.
That podcast was fun to do, and I don't know, it's not really much about analyzing movies. It's just a record of our friendship, basically. I value it as that.
It was really nice.
We mentioned it in that book release show that you listened part of.
I did hear you mention it. They said you had done it for 4 years, but I have this vision of what Mallory looks like, because I don't know what she looks like. So you know how that works.
Sure.
So like I have.
She's tiny.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I feel So
what do you think she looks like?
I feel like she's short, and that she has blondish brown hair, and she was short. And that she wears a lot of black, and she has glasses.
Yeah, that kind of a little bit of like a goth girl kind of vibe to her. Yeah, a lot of black eyeliner, but
I wouldn't have expected the black eyeliner.
Well, you can look. I mean, you can look her up on the internet.
Well, I don't want to, because I thought about doing it, and then I'm like, no, I don't.
It's better. It's better to imagine.
But maybe I'll get to meet her sometime.
Oh, sure. Yeah, she's around. I mean, she lives in the burbs, but
okay.
Yeah, I had to go when the boxes of Moby Dick came in. I had to go out there because I was signing all the pre-orders, and I was putting a stamped book plate into each one for the ones that are ordered from her or from me.
Okay, what does that mean?
A book plate?
Yeah.
It's an old school thing. They're usually called ex libris. Okay. It's like it's a picture of some kind, and then there's an open slot for you to put your name. So it's like books from your library.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes they're stickers. Sometimes they're But I made a rubber stamp that I stamped with an empty space in the middle where somebody could put their name,
Cool. I have a question. You mentioned that Mallory, this is probably, you're going to think is a really stupid question, but you mentioned that Mallory is a publisher. So what does that mean, that she's a publisher? What does that mean?
Well, people send her manuscripts, and then she decides whether to publish a book or not.
Now, what does it mean to publish it, though?
What does it mean? Well, you design it, you send it to a printer, you design a cover,
okay,
and you get a distribution either through like Amazon or through Ingram or any of the other publishers.
Okay, so is it the big part of it is the design and the printing?
And promotion, various kinds.
Okay, so she has a promotion engine, so to speak.
Well, yeah, social media, and then writing to like podcasters, bloggers, whatever, to get reviews and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, that makes sense.
That's all it is, I guess. I mean, at this point, with things so readily available, like anybody can print a book now. You just send your files to a printer, and they'll spit back a book in like a week if you want.
Well, they even have print on demand now.
Well, most books are print on demand. Major publishers, that's how they do it, because what happens is it cuts out all the storage, and you don't need to pay all this money up front.
Yeah.
And that was actually part of the calculus for all these public domain books that I've been doing. Is I decided I wouldn't be doing them the way I did all my other books,
which was
pay a bunch of money up front to a printer to print like 500 or 800 copies,
okay,
and then having to sit on those boxes and boxes of books in my house.
So that's like this guy here.
Yes,
you did.
This is the last of them. Yeah.
Okay.
The art book. So
you're doing print on demand for Moby Dick?
Yeah, they're print on demand. Yeah.
Now, what about like the is it a soft cover?
Yeah, it's a soft cover. Yeah, but they do print on demand They do print on demand everything now.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, the trade off is the quality is not the same.
Yeah.
But the access. That book, anybody in the world with an internet connection can get a copy, and it will be printed in their country.
Really?
That's the big advantage of print on demand is it cuts out shipping, like long. So I listened to this great literary podcast called Beyond the Zero. It's based in Australia, and the host is constantly complaining about how nothing is printed in Australia, so he has to order books from like America or even Europe, and the cost of that shipping is more than the cost of the book. Like I've sent my books to Asia a couple of times, and even Europe, and it costs more than the price of the book to send it. So the obvious solution around that is to have it printed in the place that you're getting it, and that's what print on demand does. You know,
I wish we could do something like this for artwork. It's like I've had people like interested in the UK in my paintings.
Oh yeah,
in the
well, you know, you just go the David Hockney route. You just fax them over and just get a computer printed out everything.
Yeah, there's something about it that is so strange because there is this physical.
Yeah,
this physical.
Yes, with painting, it's a thing that you can't really translate.
You can't really translate. So yeah, so like when I do promotion for my artwork, I just keep it all like within New England.
Sure, because, that makes sense.
So it's a little strange. But then with my podcast, I will promote that anywhere.
Sure,
because obviously anybody around the world can consume the content. So what are you excited about right now with your creative life?
Well, right now, just wrapping up the kind of new cover for the Bruce Wagner's Marvel Universe. I'm gonna have to do a couple more little cosmetic edits to the interior, probably. But I'm about a third of the way through working through The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. That'll be out next year from Arcade.
Great.
That's the current thing I'm working on, and I'm also getting ready for a show at the Rainbow Club in Wicker Park, an art show.
Oh, so you're doing producing artwork as well?
Always.
You're always doing artwork as well.
But part of that show will be the illustrations from these books.
Okay.
I'm gonna have like a whole wall of just like little illustrations, the originals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has this experience of having someone access your artwork and embrace you for this publisher in New York, has that affected your other artwork in any way?
Not yet. I mean, this is all like within the last month or two. This has happened, and neither of I've signed a contract, and it's going to be for at least 4 books. Maybe it'll be more of these that I'm doing for them, but none of them have come out yet, and I don't know if they're going to meet with any kind of success, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
It's too soon to tell. What made you move to Vermont? And how long ago did that happen?
So I moved to Vermont. Did I not review this with you before I made the decision?
No. How I feel left out of the process.
What made me move there? Well, I had been exposed to Vermont. I'm from New England. I'm from Boston. When I lived in Boston, and when I had a regular corporate job, where I got a big salary and all that, I was part of a ski house in Vermont. So I started going to Vermont all the time, but it was in a very touristy skier, snowboarder type of interaction. So we didn't really interact with Vermonters. We were mostly engaging with New Yorkers at the mountain or at our ski house. Our ski house, it's just us. It was like 14 guys. So I had a lot of exposure to Vermont that was extremely positive because it's so beautiful. It's absolutely spectacularly beautiful. And I kind of knew once I wanted to move out of a urban environment, which I knew I would, I knew Vermont was the place that I was going to be. So when I lived here, I was here for 3 years in Chicago. I really liked it, but I kind of felt that I was going to start getting roots here, and I didn't feel like I was ready to settle here. I don't know. I can't explain it. I just felt like I didn't want to be stuck here, and I felt like Vermont was closer to my family, and I thought I would just do it. So I live in a little village of 450 people.
Wow, that's tiny.
It's really small. It's really great, and it is near The big city is Bellows Falls, which is 2,200 people, and it's awesome. We have 3 gyms, 3 coffee shops, a movie theater. People in Vermont are extremely art positive. Everything, they love artists. Everyone's an artist. Everyone's a musician. It's really fantastic. You would love it. Come visit. But I really, coming back here to Chicago, I really miss being here. It's just such a great city. And I'm very grateful that I moved to the Midwest and moved to Chicago because you know what it's like. You grew up in Boston, and Boston is such a, it's just such a unique city. It's very kind of a bubble. And I feel like I'm very glad that I got to live in a big city like this, which is very different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nothing very good to say about Boston, but lots of good things to say about Chicago.
Okay. Well, I have I have wonderful things to say about Boston.
That's good.
But I definitely do. But I would say that it is moving away from there made me realize it's a really unique place in many ways that I don't necessarily think that people haven't. Many of my friends who have never left there, I don't know if they realize how kind of a unique setup it is there. But I love it here, and I've been back 4 times since I left.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I'm here quite often. It's really wonderful. Okay, so if people are interested in where should people go if they're interested in all of the books that we just talked about, the old ones, the new ones, everything?
Well, most of them are available through the store on my website, and my website's DmitrySamarov.com. It's DmitrySamarov.com. There's a store there that'll have either links to me selling it or the publishers selling whatever the books are, and art, and my podcast and all the other stuff I do.
So wait, you have a podcast?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I wasn't aware.
That's what you were listening to. That one, that the talk with Matt, the book release. That's my.
So wait,
podcast.
what is your podcast all about?
Well, it's kind of occasion. It's whenever I feel like putting something else, something out. And
what's the name of it?
Who You Know.
I didn't even know that. I should.
That's okay.
I didn't do my.
It's a secret. Well, I don't do social media, and I don't promote stuff aside from the newsletter.
All right.
But yeah, I have long interviews with people. I just recorded a 2-hour plus interview with a writer who just put out a book about the movie After Hours and how it relates to his life. You know, the Martin
Yeah,
Scorsese.
I just rewatched it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I just rewatched it like a month ago.
Well, there you go. So this guy, Ben Tanzer, who's a local writer, he's been around here forever, but he grew up around New York in Binghamton, but like his family, father was an artist, and they bonded over movies, and specifically Scorsese. And so he wrote this whole book kind of tying that movie to losing his father and grief and all this stuff.
So that movie, I feel like it was. So I'll definitely have to check out that interview.
Yeah.
That movie was kind of under the radar. I remember seeing it at the movie theater, and I remember me and my friends were like, "What? That was the weirdest movie we've ever seen." But it stayed with me, and I feel like it never. I mention it to people all the time, and they're like, "Yeah, I've never heard of it." So I don't know.
It was in an odd point in Scorsese's career because he had this early kind of splash he made with stuff like Raging Bull and Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
This early section, and then he released The King of Comedy, which I think is one of his best movies, but it was a big flop, and he couldn't get stuff financed. He was trying to make The Last Temptation of Christ, and nobody wanted to make it. So he made this pivot and adapted somebody else's story, which was After Hours. And then after that, he kind of got back on his feet. He made all these hit movies. Like The Color of Money was a big hit, but it was a totally different part of his career afterwards. So it was kind of a hinge, I think, crossroads kind of thing.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to start listening to your podcast then. And then in terms of the, you mentioned you were having an art show. Can you tell everyone about that?
Yeah.
Where and when?
It'll be at the Rainbow Club in Ukrainian Village on Damon Division. It's a classic Chicago bar. I'm working a bar shift there tonight. I fill in there sometimes. It'll start, I think it's the last, we don't have firm dates yet, but last week of July probably, through August for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you are not on social media. You just have the website. Because I tried to tag you on something this morning on Instagram, and then I'm like, yeah, I don't think he's...
No, I'm not on any of those. I have my newsletter that comes out every Monday that you can subscribe to. Everybody can. And that's been running for like 15 years or more.
Okay.
There's an archive of it. It's a subsite off of my website. Yeah, people can find all that stuff. If they go to my website, there's a welcome page, and there's links to all the many, many things that I do.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Dmitry, I am so glad that you came and met with me today in Jerry's fancy apartment.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy to hear that you're having potentially this new path or new like workflow of creative stuff. That's really exciting.
It's the thing.
I want you to be. The fact that you're having success like that makes me really happy.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a thing like I feel I can keep doing for quite a while. Like it won't be the only thing, but it'll be like a mainstay, I think.
All right, cool. All right, well, thank you, and nice hanging with you.
Likewise, thank you. Thanks for having me.
My name is Ricky McGuckran, and you have been listening to Eager to Know, the podcast. If you haven't already, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join me next week for another Eager to Know podcast.